And I'm back with more Dual Destinies. We're going to start the Cosmic Turnabout. Now this is a precursor to a larger scale finale. Much like, say, Turnabout Memories and whatnot. So, here we go. So we're going to start today with the trial phase. Courtroom bombing incident. A terrible attack launched by the will of a madman. That incident perfectly symbolized the state of the legal world in this dark age of the law. Mr. Wright brought it to a resolution of sorts. Ted Tonate was discovered to be the one responsible for the bombing. If only it were that simple. Somehow, I can't help but think that there's a darker influence at work. One that's lurking in the shadows, waiting. That's why I want to review the trial that was taking place when the bombing occurred. After all, I got more than a few personal stakes in it.
One hour remaining until launch. Please begin your final equipment check.
Check complete. Everything's A-okay. We're ready here whenever you are.
That don't look ready to me.
Come in, Act 2. Come in. Do you copy?
It's like I'm watching Evangelion. Ugh. Time for another trial to begin. But this one's different. Huh? Oh! Oh, it's Juniper. Are you alright, Apollo? Oh, was I making a scary face just now? Oh, hi, Juniper. Yeah, I'm fine. I was just doing my Chords of Steel exercises. Now I'm ready to go. Oh, knowing you, I'm sure you'll be just fine. Oh, I brought you a present for my garden. Is this a lotus root? That's right. My grandma says lotus root is good for your eyes. She even says if you look through the holes, it can help you see into the future. It's for good luck. Maybe later you can cook it and... Well, thanks! I'm gonna have some right now. Oh my! Kinda tough, though. You can't eat it raw. But thank you for the enthusiastic try. She didn't think we was weird before. Okay, I gotta calm down. Apollo! Sorry I'm late. Are you doing stuff? Hi, Tina. Junie, I didn't know you were here. Did you come to cheer him on? Well, I get it, you sly thing, you. Tina, stop. Quit getting around. Trial's about to start any second. Everything's set. Apollo, when are you ever gonna figure it out? Figure out what? That is the longest sigh I've ever heard. Oh, this is it. It's all over for me. You're gonna find me guilty. This is our client, the Solomon Soul Starbuck. He's a very famous astronaut who happens to be an acquaintance of mine. You wouldn't know it right now. He's a very upbeat and driven person. That's his whole gimmick, is that. The scene of the crime this time happened to be the Cosmic Space Center. Back in high school, my best friend and I almost went there almost a little too much. But that's where we met Mr. Starbuck. We'd ask about space travel, and he'd launch into story after story with so much passion. Back in those days, that man was 100% my hero. You don't look it. Are you gonna be okay being my lawyer, Apollo? Of course I'm sure. I know you, Mr. Starbuck. I know you're not the type to commit murder. Well, thanks, but... I was supposed to be in space right about now. Ugh. I'm trying to make it as pronounced and annoying as possible. Because that's what this feels like. Whenever I read this, I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to do, but I don't like it. And this guy's not even bad. He's just... If it weren't for that verbal tick, it wouldn't be annoying. He's so depressed. It's almost like... Yeah, I know. It feels like an act. Also, his hair looks like a pencil. Like a giant red-colored pencil. Once he's about to get called off, it must have been a huge shock. I'll probably never get the chance to go into space again. Hey, don't say that. Don't stop believing. Just like Journey. Wait, it was Journey, right? Don't stop believing. Yeah, it was them, I'm sure. Besides, you just gotta go into space again. Yeah, I don't think I could face Clay in the afterlife if I rotted away in a cell. Clay Terran. Can't believe he was murdered. I mean, he was such a promising astronaut under your command. Yeah, he was a good guy. He was there to pick me up when I was down. No one loved life more than him. Well, that's for sure. He was always so full of energy, telling me, "You're fine, Mr. Starbuck." Am I annoying yet? Because I could keep doing it 50 more times if the game's going to keep doing it. Because I want to like this guy. How could something like this happen to a guy like that? I've never seen him so down. Ugh. He's gone. I'm going to prison. Wish I could burn up like a shooting star right now. Mr. Starbuck, you'll be fine. Whoa! What is it? What's with the yelling? I'll get to the bottom of this. You'll see. In exchange, I want you to go back to space for you and Clay. Promise? Does that mean you got lots of evidence to prove my innocence? Oh, well, about that. We didn't get to investigate the area as much as I would have liked, thanks to the police. I'm done for. I'm a goner. Everybody thinks I did it. Thought I was gonna soar like a comet, but I'm just gonna crash like a meteorite. Hey, don't say that! Don't count yourself out yet. I know it's hard to lose a teammate, but you just gotta keep going. What about you, Apollo? What about me? I was just thinking, wasn't he your best friend? We need to focus on the trial right now. Are you all ready to go? Apollo? Trial is about to begin. If the defense would please proceed into the courtroom. Okay, here we go. And bailiff goes, And stop yawning! I've heard it across the room. There's one trial I can't afford to lose. For Clay's sake and our client, I will find his killer. Like, seriously. Ugh. Of all the things you could use as, like, a verbal cue to, like, make him memorable, you don't think being an astronaut is enough? Court is now in session for the trial of Solomon Starbuck. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Excuse me, Mr. Justice. Yeah? What happened to your eye? Fine! The defense is ready, Your Honor. Are you sure? I don't... I'm fine, Your Honor! The defense is ready! I'm sorry, Your Honor. He's been like this since yesterday. Keeps insisting it's just a sty. I suppose he doesn't want... It's something he doesn't want to discuss. Maybe he's entering a touchy age of 24. Or 23 or whatever. Very well. And the prosecution? The prosecution appears to be ready as well.
Silence!
Not yet. I'm not quite ready yet. Oh! Oh, he's ready now. The prosecution is now ready. Well, it didn't take him long this time. What's up with Blackwell? Now then, I shall give the opening statement. I'll do it. You will? What an unexpected surprise! This time, I can't leave it to anyone else. I see. Something is off with the two of you today. You both seem different somehow. Very well, Prosecutor Blackwell, your opening statement. It was just yesterday. The crimes in question occurred in the Cosmos Space Center. The famous Federal Research Facility, all things related to astrology, right? Astronomy. It's astronomy. Anyway, a rocket was set to launch from there. But at 9:28 a.m., before they could even move the rocket to the launch site, it go boom! 2 explosive devices were detonated, and the launch was cancelled. My word! 2 bombs? How dreadful! The defendant in today's trial was charged with both the bombing and the murder. One Solomon Starbuck. For whatever inane reason, he detonated a bomb on the rocket he himself would be in. Solomon Starbuck? I recognize that name. Isn't he the famous astronaut? Correct your boldness. Mr. Starbuck was the pilot of the Hat-1 rocket 7 years ago. As you may recall, despite some interstellar trouble, his mission was a success. Some say it was a miracle he returned alive. I suppose you could say he's a living legend. Oh, I remember now. He's become something of an international celebrity. He even turned the incident into a movie and everything. We've got a real space pioneer in court. But even heroes tumble from their lofty heights. Returning to the subject at hand. Ah, yes. The victim was one Mr. Clay Terran, a subordinate of the defendant. Indeed. A loyal disciple brutally stabbed to death by his mentor. Stabbed to death, you say? You mean his death wasn't a result of the bombing? Correct. Despite his lofty dreams, the victim was seen as an interloper by the defendant. And so he was sent not into space, but to the universe which we mortals can't see. Clay. I think I've heard enough. The case seems pretty clear-cut at this point. However, there's one thing I'm curious about. That metal box near the witness stand. What purpose does it serve exactly? Since you ask so nicely, it's your coffin. Ah! Have mercy on me! I jest. It's evidence. Due to its immense size, we've little choice but to lay it where it rests now. We shall get to the contents of the box in due time. I felt like I lost 50 years of my life. Does he even have 50 years left? Inner monologue. Enough jabbering. Bobby Fulbright's the name. In justice we trust. Ah, Detective Fulbright. Very well then, please explain the details of this incident to the court. On it. First, take a look at this pamphlet for the Cosmic Space Center. In it, you'll see a diagram outlining the overall layout of the Space Center. Oh, here we are. For a more detailed look at what's on the left side of the building. Take a look at the cross-section where the police have created. See the launch pad in the main building? The launch pad is a square building, and the round structure is the main building. The launch pad is a square building, and the rounded structure is the main building, right? You got it. The incidents took place in Launch Pad 1, in the main building's lounge. I'll be using this diagram during my testimony, to make it easier to understand. Just before the rocket was set to launch, 2 bombs went off. Boom! Boom! One on the second floor of the Space Center's main building, and one in Launch Pad 1. Thankfully, only the 2 astronauts were in the launch pad at the time. The 2 of them managed to make it back as far as the boarding lounge. But after the escape, one of the 2 was found stabbed to death! Murder on top of a bombing? Detective, the victim was already dead by the time you arrived at the lounge, correct? Yep. Thinking he'd sabotage. That's actually accurate. He'd sabotaged the bombing. The defendant killed him right there on the rocket. Just look at the tragic photo. Oh my. Is that a knife in the victim's chest? Yes, Your Honor. It's a knife that cruelly ended the young man's dreams. You couldn't get any prints off it, though. It's because he was in the spacesuit. By the way, Detective Fulbright, why are the victim's helmet and right glove absent in the photograph? We had to remove them to identify him, Your Honor. I personally removed his glove during the investigation. We had to get his fingerprints to confirm his identity, after all. Yes, it would be very difficult to identify him without face or fingerprints. There's just one more thing I'd like to inquire about. What is that round thing next to the victim in this photo? Something so important to the victim he took it with him as he escaped. A capsule that apparently contains asteroid samples. While obviously valuable for research purposes, it has no relation to this case. I see. So, we know that the bombing in the main building was on the second floor. But where was the bomb that was set in the launch pad 1? That one was on the rocket itself. It was situated around the central part of the rocket. Apparently, the area around the launch pad's elevator was a sea of flames. I would like to submit this diagram report into the record. Trial's just started and we're already in a bind. You get used to it. Besides, that's what cross-examination's for, right? The 2 astronauts were doing during the bombing. That'll be the key.
Hold it!
How powerful were the explosives? Well, the one in the main building wasn't strong enough to bring the place down, but the room it went off in burned black. Thankfully, no one was hurt. Due in large part, of course, to me stepping up to lead the evacuation. Wait, what were you doing in there in the first place? I'm Bobby Fulbright, hero of justice. I'll be there whenever, wherever, and whenever, because I missed to place the words, people need my help. I'd go to the other side of the world, even the edge of the universe. I'm not sure he knows how far that actually is. I guess I'll leave that one alone. Admirable decision. Huh? What do you decide? Anyway, could you describe what it was like in the Space Center at the time? The bomb cut the power to the central bank of elevators in the third-floor lounge. It was pitch black in there, let me tell you. However, the security cameras and whatnot were running an emergency backup. Wait, how'd the evacuation go? I immediately and heroically whisked people down to the Space Center's basement shelter. The basement shelter? Yes, there's an emergency shelter beneath the Space Center. Emergency shelter? Oh, here it is. It's at the bottom of the diagram. Space Center's pretty impressive to have its own shelter. Hurrah! Power outage and evacuation seem unrelated to the murder. Guess I'll have to put that aside for now. So were there 2 explosions in total? Yup, that's right.
Hold it!
So I'm pretty much gathering evidence and information early. So let me get this straight. Mr. Starbuck rigged a rocket he was going to board with explosives? Huh? What are you talking about? If the defendant really did plant the bomb in his own rocket, he'd get caught in the explosion as well. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Fine. A simpleton for a simpleton. Fulbright. The motive. Understood. The defendant actually had astrophobia. What's that? A fear of space, naturally. Just the thought of space could cause the afflicted to freeze up. And so, in his terror, the defendant found a way to stop the launch at the last minute. That's absurd. Unfortunately for you, we have evidence. Take a look at these. What are they? These anti-anxiety tablets were found among the defendant's possessions. Apparently, he was taking them in secret to quell his fears. There were a multitude of problems with the rocket Mr. Starbuck rode 7 years ago. Rumor has it threatened to crash a number of times as well. That was, of course, very traumatic for Mr. Starbuck.
Objection!
But that doesn't mean he'd go so far as to blow up his own ship.
Silence!
The defendant couldn't bear to mar his good name. How could he? No, not after the media had branded him Soul Starbuck, space pioneer extraordinaire. Given these conditions, the defendant could hardly run away from some base mutt. What, so that's why you think he resorted to the bombing? Naturally. He constructed this act of sabotage in an attempt to blow up the Space Center, which would effectively abort the launch, but spare his reputation. Now, I'm sure you understand why we have to bring justice to this atrocious criminal, and why I have to turn off my phone. Or at least turn it down. Okay.
Hold it!
Are you sure it was only the 2 of them? It was just before the spaceship was set to launch, so of course it was only those 2. Well, it could have been somebody else inside the rocket.
Silence!
The notion of a third party in Launchpad 1 is utterly absurd. Just to enter the area from the lounge, one would pass through a door guarded by a fingerprint recognition device. And allow me to state up front that there are precious few with the clearance to do so. A fingerprint recognition device? That sounds so futuristic and complex as a space center. Actually, it's not as amazing as you think. Take a look at this photo. This is the door in the lounge with the fingerprint lock. Only personnel whose fingerprints are registered can pass through. I see. This is very different from what I had in mind. And is there a record of the number of people that passed through the door? Yes, there were only 3. The defendant, the victim, and the director of the Space Center, Yuri Cosmos. And doesn't that mean it's possible the director's the one who did it? Not a chance. He was in the main building when the bombs exploded at 9:28, doing his job directing the launch. Besides having an alibi, he has no motive for committing these senseless acts. He has a point. I guess the director can't be considered a suspect. Oh, we'll get to him. We'll get to him. Okay, Launchpad door lock, press remaining statement. Hey!
Hold it!
So while it would appear that the pair barely, Jesus, escaped with their lives, in actuality, only one of them had already been murdered inside the rocket. That's the angle the prosecution wants to push, correct? You got it. In fact, that's what I've been trying to say this whole time. If the victim had been alive, he would have for sure tried to stop the bombing. Is there any chance Mr. Terran would have been killed before he boarded the rocket? They were both alive and well at boarding time and embarked under their own power. Their hearts full of hopes and dreams of space. And then both of their hopes and dreams were dashed. If I may continue my explanation, after the evacuation order was given, the defendant made his escape carrying the victim to make it look like a rescue.
Hold it!
And who was the first to find the victim? Actually, there were 2 of them. The Space Center director, Yuri Cosmos, and Detective Candace Arm. One of them was a detective? Yup, Detective Arm specializes in bombings, you see. She and the director were ordering the evacuation following the explosions. They were also worried about the astronauts, so they hurried over to the boarding lounge. That's when they discovered the victim along with the defendant. 2 witnesses, huh? One of them's a detective? I doubt either of them would have anything to say that would help me. I think that pretty much covers the details of the case. Only the victim and defendant were on the launch pad when the former was killed. If this is the truth, then only Mr. Starbuck could have carried out this crime. What little I have to get him out of only hurt my case. Justice Dono. Foolish is the warrior who rushes headlong into battle. Preparation is an essential element of battle, so I advise you take a gander at this. What is it? Footage from a security camera. As the 2 astronauts emerged from the bowels of the launch pad corridor. The boarding lounge security camera footage captured their desperate escape. Now I will direct your attention to what the defendant is shouldering, which you can see is none other than the lifeless body of the victim. What? Order! Order, I say! This lines up exactly with as the prosecution has asserted. I should have known Blackwill would have had something like this ready. Crap. Apollo, How exactly did they determine that Clay was already gone in the footage? Oh, I see what you mean. Whether Clay was still alive at the point is pretty crucial. Your Honor, please take another look at the footage. Isn't it possible Mr. Terran was still alive and Mr. Starbuck was helping him? I believe you're right. One man carrying the other to safety. What a beautiful expression of friendship. Perhaps that's what it looks like to one hot-headed, or one-eyed hothead and a dotard. But it only makes sense if it was the victim's dead body. What do you mean? Fulbright, explain it to Justice Dono. You got it. Ready, kid? The murder had occurred in the lounge. Someone could have spotted it. Anyone could enter the lounge, after all. But doing it while they were in the spaceship? That's a horse of a different color. It was color, right? Not color. But you can't deny that the possibility the murder could have happened in the lounge. All that video shows is a man helping his fellow astronaut.
Silence!
Your assertion is based on emotion. It's based on your belief that Mr. Starbuck would surely help his own disciple. But you have no logical explanation as to why the victim could still be alive. Unfortunately, Mr. Justice, the prosecution is right. Your argument is lacking in sound logic. But it sounded perfectly logical to me. Well, Mr. Justice, if you have no further objections, I believe it's time to bring this cross-examination to a close. Objections? Well, Hold it! Uh-oh. Your Honor, the defense requests a little time to think and regroup. Given the facts, I'm not sure I see the need. What is it? It's just... there's something that's been bugging me. If it isn't the defense stalling for time, as always. Very well, I'm feeling generous. You may have a small measure of time. Yeah! You have 5 seconds. 5 seconds?! After that, I declare this cross-examination to be closed and a verdict to be rendered. Your baldness, raise your gavel high. It's time for a countdown. Oh! Ready? We don't have time! Spit it out! Only 3 more seconds! Look! I don't think the prosecution's explanation is complete. Meaning there's something missing. Like they conveniently left it unexplained. Something they didn't explain. Oh! You're right! I think I know what you're talking about. Your 5 seconds are up, Mr. Justice. Is there anything about the prosecution's argument you'd like to rebuff? Actually, there is. There's something that the prosecution's yet to make clear to the court. Well, if you put it that way, what is it the prosecution has failed to explain? Shit, I was scanning my phone there. They failed to explain why Mr. Starbuck would bother bringing the body back at all. If the defendant wanted to kill him, why didn't they just leave him in the rocket? Why go through the trouble of bringing him all the way to the boarding lounge? Oh, that's true. I don't think we've heard the prosecution's thoughts on that. That's because they don't have any. After all, how does one explain something so illogical? Prosecution is claiming that the defendant moved the victim's dead body. What if the entire premise of that argument's wrong? Then let's hear your theory. The defense proposes that the defendant didn't kill him. He was helping him. Fulbright, explain it for a sad friend there before I nod off to this monotone monologue. Inform him exactly why Spaceboy moved the victim. They've gotta be joking. It's simple. Mr. Starbuck did what he did to direct suspicion away from himself. He wanted to create the impression he heroically risked his life to save his partner. That's why he made it sure to get to the security camera so there'd be a record. At the very least, he appears to have achieved success with you and the old man. Huh? The average person wearing a spacesuit weighs easily over 200 pounds. Saving the life of a partner who weighs as much while trying to escape deadly flames. What a dramatic sob story for the silver screen. Indeed, I was completely taken in by the humanity of the story. You see, yet the true ending of it traces all of his hammy act were meant to blow up. Yes, and now we arrive at the thrilling conclusion. The third explosion. What are you talking about? There was no third explosion! Indeed, you are correct. But this is thanks to Detective Arm. It was she who identified and secured the bomb. However, it doesn't change the fact that a third bomb was discovered in the lounge. The sealed coffin beside the witness stand. That would be a bomb transport case. We used that to transport the deactivated bomb here. It was found in the lounge. A bomb in the form of a most distasteful toy. What? A bomb? One on the second floor of the main building, one in the launch pad, and one in the lounge. The defendant planned to set off 3 fireworks displays. Fortunately, the third was discovered before it could be detonated. For had it not, the victim's body and other vital evidence would surely have been immolated.
Objection!
Before you utter a word, know that this evidence supports me. It's like he's reading my mind. As it is still undergoing forensic investigation, I do not have the evidence at hand. However, know that a peculiar item was found in one of Mr. Starbuck's pockets. Specifically, a bomb detonation switch. You found what? I suspect the defendant had no time to destroy such damning evidence. When the Space Center director and Detective Arms stumbled upon the murder, so he thought he'd hide it in his pocket. Feeble-brained that he is. No! Mr. Starbuck would never do anything like that! Ow. Justice Dono. Open your eyes and see the truth. This appears to be irrefutable evidence that the accused set off the explosions. There's gonna be some kind of mistake. That can't be the truth. Still can't accept it. You'll believe in your client, come what may. Then why don't you cross-examine the defendant himself? This has gotta be a trap. It's like Blackwell is controlling the entire game. It seems like he was waiting for me to bring up the body-moving issue. Why do you say that? Because he had just the right argument when I pointed it out. And to really rub it in, he had a decisive piece of evidence up his sleeve, too. He was trying to shake my faith in Mr. Starbuck and break me down. And making you cross-examine him was part of his plan, too? Totally underhanded, but I wouldn't expect anything less from him. Now, let us hear from the arch-villain, the fiendish murderer himself, famed astronaut Solomon Starbuck. Witness your name and occupation, please. Solomon Starbuck, astronaut. Ugh. How did it happen? Mr. Starbuck, you're not looking very well. Will you be able to give testimony? No. Well, unfortunately, no is not an option. You are being accused of the Space Center bombing and the murder of Clay Terran. Please testify to these allegations. Ugh. Mind if I take the suit off? It's getting really heavy.
Silence!
It's not the weight of the suit that you feel, but of your sins. Prepare to carry that weight for the rest of your life. Banish me to the moon, I don't care anymore. Oh, that was super negative. Is he gonna be all bright up there? He'll be fine, I think. As long as he don't give up and say he did it. Alright, so this is a good place to stop for today. We'll get to it in the next episode. Please tell me I don't have to keep doing that stupid sigh. At least less than before. I'm begging you, game. But we'll see you next time.